So with Spiritforged completely underway, we've had a lot of tournaments that have gone through the ringer, and with that, we are going to finally be making our tier list. That's right, we've been playing a lot of games against a lot of different decks, and it's going to be really interesting to see how accurate my tier list is going to be when the meta finally gets fleshed out and even released in English. So, what is that tier list? Well, let's go ahead and find out together. This is the biggest thing. This is something that you can always take with a grain of salt because, of course, yes, as YouTubers, we do like doing these kinds of lists, but at the same time, it is more so our own personal opinions more than it is actual, scripture, if you will. And so with that, that's going to be the big thing. We're not going to necessarily go about doing, my word is law kind of thing, but this is more so just a fun way to go about it. Now, with Spiritforged, it's been really interesting because there's been a lot of really kind of good surprises and some not so much surprises as well. So it's going to be cool to see how this continues to shape up and what's going to be really making the impact and what's going to be kind of going to the backseat of the meta as well. Still, though, this is going to be really fun because it's the fact that we have so many different decks that are able to go ahead and be utilized. It's just so fun. I mean, gosh, we have so many legends, and this is only set 2. And it's so cool because they also encourage you to be able to pick up these legends and take them to regionals and things of that nature so that you can go ahead and try to win the medal card or try to get the best of or, things like that. So it's so fun to be able to see this. And yeah, let's go ahead and just dive right into it. So one of the big things here, of course, is this is going to be all the legends. So, I mean, gosh, this is going to be a project. But still, we also even have some fun stuff here where we are going to be taking a look at even some of the city challenges. I mean, look at all of this. We have been able to start the city challenge where, we've had 9 city challenges so far, each with around 100 or more players. The only one under 100, of course, is going to be at 84, which is still a good showing, all things considered. So here we go with that. Now, first and foremost, Kai'Sa. Where is Kai'Sa going to go? Well, D tier, guarantee. So the biggest thing with this is I think Kai'Sa is one of the most, if not the most adaptive deck in this current meta. It has the removal, it has the aggression, it also has just some really great spells like retreat. Where you are able to go ahead and target a unit and return it to hand and save it so it can fight for another day. That's a lot of really good versatility. It has ways to be able to make your opponent go down to even now negative might, so that you can attack in with a very lightweight unit and be able to still win the battle. So, I mean, just a lot of really fun stuff here that Kai'Sa is able to do. In set 1, she was easily the most dominant deck. I mean, we saw that, but the biggest thing was there was even a little bit of a shift where a lot of other decks started to really catch up. And you got used to playing against Kai'Sa because the meta forced you to play against Kai'Sa and you learned how to play into that deck. Even still, though, it was really interesting to be able to see, especially the transition between Houston and Orlando, in English at least, because we saw the huge climb of Annie, which was able to go all the way to the top and win in Houston, and then following, we were able to see what Kai'Sa was able to do to adjust for that meta change. And not only that, we saw that they added an additional, like a Cathian Rain, they added as well singularities and things like that to be able to ping, units anywhere on the board and punish you, even if Annie was able to go ahead and attack in and then deflect back out and go back to base when you were playing things like Void Seeker and things like that. So really interesting kind of dynamics here. And I really think that while Kai'Sa has had somewhat a good showing in this current meta of Spiritforged, it hasn't necessarily been able to make its impact known. And I think we are still in a sense of discovery when it comes to Kai'Sa, and that she needs to be able to adapt to the current meta. I do think, though, that she is taking a little bit of a step back, especially because Aurelia, Ornn, and other champions and legends are able to go ahead and use deflect to their advantage, which is making Kai'Sa take that little bit of a step back. Still, though, I think just with the pure aggression and everything that she is able to do, I think she is going to be in the S tier, though still a little bit step back instead of the top deck. We're going to see which one is the top deck here momentarily. Still, though, really cool to be able to see where Kai'Sa is, what it's able to do, and what it will continue to do in this meta. Kai'Sa's not going anywhere. And Ferocious Forerunner is a great addition to this deck, and I still think it needs to be able to find itself. And that might take a couple of weeks. It might even take until the English release. But Kai'Sa is here to stay, and it is a scary deck at that, even in Spiritforged. Now, next, of course, we are going to be taking a look at Volibear. Now, the biggest thing about Volibear is that he kind of is a little bit taken a step back. Now, there is decks surrounding about Dragon Volibear and, Volibear Aurora and things of that, but it's still not necessarily there. I want Volibear to be good. He has such a good legend ability. I mean, anytime that you play something mighty, cool, you go ahead and channel a rune. And that is just a solid way to get free ramp, because that's what your whole deck is going to evolve around. And Volibear was always able to capitalize on that well, but it just hasn't necessarily had the tools to be able to do so successfully and consistently at least the same power of what you would maybe expect from like a Set, an Annie, a Yi, or even like a Kai'Sa for that matter. And so because of that, it's like, well, and even with all the gear destruction and things like that, even Dragon Volibear, I'm afraid that Volibear is taking a step back to C tier. Really sad to see, because I do love the idea behind Volibear. I love the color combination as well, but still, it is not able to necessarily go ahead and find its path. And so because of that, it is definitely going to be C tier. Next, of course, we do have a Jinx. Jinx is a very unique one. Love the legend ability of being able to draw an additional card at the start of your turn, but only if you meet the parameter of having one or less cards in hand. And unfortunately, that's just not something that's feasible. I really wanted Jinx to go ahead and be a threat to be reckoned with, but still, you have great cards like Called Shot and Stacked Deck, both of which are able to get you what you need and also be able to thin through your deck. But you can't use that in Jinx because, well, you need to get down to the one or two cards. And if you do just have way too many cards, well, then she's just a dead legend. You're not using her legend ability. And that's so sad to see because, gosh, she was just such a blast to be able to go against. And, she's had some good showings every now and again. And her signature spell is decent. But that's about it. You're not going to necessarily be seeing her performing all that well. She does have sometimes a good best of one deck, but that's about it. And I would say even she would be behind Volibear at this point. She's just not going to be good. And unfortunately, even Draven, which is the same color combination, is going to be one of the best decks of this meta. We'll give you that going right now. But still, this is going to be something that will be, unfortunately, something that just falls further and further behind as we get more and more cards. There's not going to be much that you can really give to Jinx to make her be a better legend. You're just not. And then you go ahead and give Draven probably the ability that Jinx was supposed to have. I mean, if you gave Jinx that ability, gosh, Jinx would be one of the best decks already in that case. But unfortunately, that is Draven's ability, and that's where Jinx is going to sit. Now, next with that, we are going to be seeing a Darius. Now, Darius is interesting. I will say that I would be ranking him a lot lower if I didn't know my good friend Batsu. If you haven't seen him on YouTube, probably the best Darius player that I have seen. He knows the deck in and out. This is all he plays. If he bleeds Darius. That's just how he is. If I could be real, I haven't ever seen him play a different deck, and he always plays the Darius hook. Now, of course, that is for set 1, but we also have even seen like an aggro Darius that was able to go ahead and do decently well at a city challenge here in China. So that's going to be an interesting aspect to keep in mind, but still, I will say that Darius has maybe fallen a little bit behind in the sense of how complicated of a deck that he has been. I've played Darius Hook, and man, do I suck with him. It's not the fact that if you find baited hook, you just win, and if you don't find baited hook, you lose. No, it's even more deep than that, where you can actually even utilize the deck to where you don't even need baited hook to be able to win. And sometimes even if you do play baited hook, it can actually slow you down and even hurt you more than actually giving you that momentum shift. So to have the deck knowledge to be able to know how to best navigate this deck is so difficult. Not only that, Darius has one of the best legend abilities to be seen. Being able to do, if you play a card already for the turn, you add an extra rune. You are able to go ahead and just add a rune of any color to your deck, essentially. But I mean, it is going to be locked within the color combination. But still, this is really good. And I would say back end of A tier, as of right now at least, or the top of B tier. Darius is going to be definitely one to catch people off guard. And it has just, I mean, the yellow alone of being able to directly kill units can be something that can be impacting this meta and might even very well be surprising people. Again, though, one of the biggest things that Darius is going to be struggling with is going to be card draw. Unfortunately, that's just how it's going to be. Still, though, high B tier, I think, is very fitting. If not low A tier here, will be great. Now, still, though, we have a Ahri. One of the most popular legends in the game, one of the most popular legends in League of Legends. I mean, the nine-tailed fox herself is able to do absolutely great work. Now, we haven't seen her very much in Spiritforged. We haven't seen her very much at all in Origins either, which has been really interesting and kind of raising a brow because it was a very popular deck in the very beginning, and then just kept falling further and further behind because there was just better options. Ahri's legend ability to -1 for all attackers is really good, but Yi just does it better. And Yi's color combination even is maybe a little bit better. The blue is just okay. But the green is just such a powerful color combination. It's like if Ahri had that legend ability with a different color combination, would she be in a different discussion? We're not talking about Origins, though. We're talking about Spiritforged. And this is going to be something interesting. There were some really good additions to go ahead and be able to utilize. There's a green card, for example, that goes ahead and every time it moves, you are able to draw a card. That could be something to be very well utilized in Ahri, though Ahri doesn't have necessarily the best movement as it does in purple. Even still, though, there are some really good surprises that Ahri is able to give, but still, I feel like it is going to be low on the B tier for that. Kind of the same that we are seeing with Lee Sin here. We did see a really great showing here out in Houston, where, you know, we were able to go ahead and break into the top 64 with Lee Sin. That, of course, was with the Deadbloom Predators and being able to have a great legend ability of being able to pay one to buff a unit. That is incredibly powerful because that +1 might can be the big difference maker. Then you also have a lot of things that even utilize the +1 buffs that you are able to use that other decks aren't. But still, at the same time, if you are using this color combination, if you are running the 3 Dead Blooms, then Master Yi is just going to be your better option. The consistency, the +2, you are able to do just so much more with Master Yi than what you are able to do with Lee Sin. He still can be a really great deck, but I think also middle of B tier is going to be very fitting. Now, with that, it's going to be interesting because it's like, well, where does A tier then fit? You know, we have S tier, which is going to be the best of the best, but what's going to be in A tier? And I got to tell you, Yasuo very well could be A tier or high B tier. It could be either way. Again, I still need to see a little bit more a deck play. We already see Aurelia at the top, and rightfully so. Her legend ability is incredibly powerful. But that's going to be the hard part because the only time that you are able to activate her legend ability is when you target a unit. And also, even going ahead and sacrificing a rune to be able to ready them an attack in, while powerful, can drastically slow you down. So if you miss out on making gold, well, what do you then do about that? And you can fall behind in that case. Whereas Yasuo just says, hey, go ahead and pay 2. You can move me. Go ahead. And that's a really interesting discussion here. I know Gale Wins for in particular has done a really good job at building a very competitive Yasuo deck that is very knowledgeable. You need to be matchup knowledgeable with it, but if you do know your matchups incredibly well, you can go ahead and take down this Yasuo, or you can go ahead and take down a lot of decks with Yasuo, and that's going to be something that is interesting to see. Now, I will still say it could very well go into the B tier, but I think just even the consistency of being able to move a legend in is something that is going to go ahead and be able to impact this meta more so than at least what we've seen in Origins. Yasuo, I will rightfully argue, is probably one of the most slept on legends of Origins, period. And because of that, I think Yasuo still could make a really big impact in this next meta too. I would say middle A tier. I would say yes, even above like what we would maybe see with Darius. I could say even probably right next to Darius. If I would go B tier, I would put them hand in hand, together in this case. Don't write that fan fiction. Anyway, but with that, it's going to be interesting to see. But I really think because Aurelia is so high that Yasuo has the potential to match that. Maybe not as high as where Aurelia is going to be, just because the legend ability could potentially be used multiple times a turn. But still, just that kind of consistency, that aggression that his legend ability could add is something that needs to be kept an eye on. And Yasuo's ability as a champion as well is incredibly powerful and should be considered. Yes. The Leona. One that I was really sad to see because I absolutely loved Leona in Runeterra. She was one of my favorites to be able to utilize. Great card, great deck combo that we were able to get there. Unfortunately, hasn't been able to do so just yet. The hardest part with Leona is that she doesn't necessarily have that speed. She has great ability. She has great color combinations. She has a lot in her arsenal. But you go ahead and you destroy all of her units, and it's going to take her a turn or two to really build back. And that kind of disadvantage is something that is going to give a big advantage to those decks that are able to be aggressive. You go ahead and you destroy all of Annie's units. Well, they can immediately come back in with a Kaisa or a Darius. You go ahead and destroy all of Kaisa's, and it's the same thing. And that's going to be one of the hardest parts here. Is, well, what do you do when you go ahead and you lose all your units as a Leona player? Okay, cool. I rebuild my board, but oh crap, you just falling starred me again. Oh, you just rebuked my main unit. Oh, there's a lot of scenarios, unfortunately, where Leona just falls further and further behind in this. And that is something that is so hard to see. I wish she could be good. She has such a fun deck. But she needs that little piece to go ahead and give her that extra power jump so that she could break into this meta. You're going to still see her do decently well every occasion. But again, she doesn't necessarily have the speed that is needing to be utilized with what you see in other colors. And because of that, I would still put her above Volley and Jinx in this case, but I would still stick her in the C tier. Now, here we go. Where does Teemo fit? This is going to be tough. We got some really good hidden cards. We got some switcheroos. We got some really fun things to utilize with Teemo. But the biggest thing is Teemo really did seem to struggle in set 1. We did see Prismaticism that was able to do well in Vegas, was also able to do decently well in Houston with a couple of Teemos that were able to make it into the top 32. And it's tough to really say where Teemo would be because he's one of the lower end of the represented cards. I did go against an Spiritforged Teemo deck. Unfortunately, the person who made that deck went way too heavy into the gears and everything to try to utilize the effects of those gears, and ended up just falling really short to Draven in that case. I still feel like, though, Teemo could be one to make a good impact in this next meta. I know that me and Casanova had been talking and discussing where Teemo even fits in Origins, and he would rightfully argue that Teemo was the third most, and is the third most, since we're still in Origins, most powerful deck in the current meta. And I almost do have to agree with that. I would say 3 or 4. But the biggest thing is that he can really struggle if he cannot get onto a battlefield. Well, what are the two decks that are really good at stopping you from getting onto a battlefield? Annie and Kai'Sa. And so if you go ahead and you try to get into a battlefield, fight or flight back. Okay, cool. That sets you a turn behind. Then Annie goes ahead and gets in. Awesome. And, there's just a lot of answers to go ahead and get you taken care of. Kai'Sa. Oh, I'm going to go into this battlefield. Hextech Ray. Boom, you're dead, kind of thing. And that sets you far behind. And so you have to kind of maneuver around and almost hope that your opponent doesn't draw those kinds of answers early game, but it's consistent enough that you're able to, that your opponent is going to be drawing that. Still, though, Teemo has one of the best mid and in games of the meta, period. Not only that, going ahead and then also saying, hey, by the way, we got Switcheroo added in. We got you to utilize Rebuke. We got Mind Splitters if you really want to use that. I mean, not that Teemo necessarily uses a lot of that yet, but still, there are a lot of really powerful combinations and very powerful hidden cards at that. And so Teemo could very well still be in the A tier, and I would even put him a little bit over Yasuo. Again, time will tell, but I really think that Teemo could really be surprising people. Again, we are at that discovery phase. Teemo needs to be able to find that correct balance, but I think once you do, it could be incredibly scary. Now, here we go with Viktor. Ooh, S tier, A tier. We'll see. But I mean, here's going to be the biggest thing about this is that Viktor, I think, got just such a bump with Spiritforged. Period. The blue and yellow combination is such a good color combination that Viktor can go ahead and take control of. Even better than I would even say Azir, who has green and yellow. Because Azir very much relies on the equipment that you are able to give your sand soldiers. If you destroy that gear, it's just over. It is such an uphill battle there. Viktor, though, has probably one of the most consistent decks. In Origins, you heard me say this in multiple videos, Viktor doesn't have a great matchup into anything, but has a good matchup into everything. And that is definitely proven. Viktor, I mean, he had such a horrible showing in China with Origins. He had a decent showing, at least, in Vegas, in Orlando, and things like that. And there's been some really interesting deck lists that have been circulating. I mean, heck, in China, we even saw a 0-unit Viktor, outside of the champion, of course, that was being utilized, and very successfully so. So, I mean, Viktor has also the direct removal. He has singularity. He has a lot in his arsenal to be able to be used. This is going to be my big claim, probably my boldest claim here. Viktor is going to be low S tier. The abilities that he has, the cards that he has in his arsenal, and the direct removal is going to be something that is so scary in this meta. You're going to go ahead and maybe you go ahead and you're able to singularity going against Ornn, and you take out 2 big units that you need to get out of the way, and then you're left with only Ornn on the board, and you Call of the Week. You're not targeting Ornn. You don't have to pay that deflect cost. And all those things that are attached to him, no big deal. And he just ends up getting killed. Now, of course, he might have the Guardian Angel or whatnot attached to him, but still, you are able to really slow him down in that case. Or there's a lot of direct kill spells. And you got Imperial Decrees, and you got all of this in your arsenal to be able to use, that I really think that Viktor can take a step up in Spiritforge and really make an impact. Time will tell again, but we will see. Now, a lot of people have been trying to figure out where MF Aurora, MF decks in general are going to be. You can go ahead and build MF aggro and do a decent job. I went against Prismaticism in a tournament, and that absolutely sucked because he played MF aggro, and I had no idea what to even expect in this deck, and he just 2-0'd me because I had no idea what to even prepare for. And so, but here's the biggest thing and the main discussion that we are going to be having. I have had a lot of people on my live stream trying to discuss where MF Aurora is going to be. We did get an MF Aurora that was able to be in 7th place in one of the city challenges, even with all the gear destruction. MF Aurora, I still think, is going to be here to stay, but where at in this meta? There is a lot of gear destruction. You got even sabotage and things of that nature, too. And so even if you happen to go ahead and finally get out your dazzling Auroras, it really needs to stay out for 2 turns to at least pay for itself. You know, and that's going to be really difficult. It's like, well, is that going to be something worth running? Am I just going to continue to be bombarded over and over again with getting killed and my units not being able to survive and Aurora gets destroyed immediately? It's tough to say. But I would still say that this is definitely going to be B tier. It definitely could still go ahead and be very dominant in this. I do think that MF Aurora is the best Aurora deck, at least in Origins. But still, with all the gear destruction, you are hoping that you are able to hit all the right cards to be able to stop your opponent from destroying your dazzling Auroras. Not to say that that's not possible, but it is a lot harder to do. Now, Set. This is going to be interesting. I mean, and Set's got a lot of cards utilized here, and I feel like right now, especially, there are a lot of people in China, especially the city challenges, that are so hyped for the new Legends, and rightfully so, that they are not necessarily hopping on to what is already good and consistent outside of Kaisa. That's something really interesting. And with that, Set had at least one good performance where he ended up winning a smaller, not a city challenge, but a smaller tournament. And it was literally an exact carbon copy of an Origins deck. Didn't have any Set 2 cards, and it was able to go ahead and do incredibly well. Well, with that, that's something to keep an eye on. And not only that, but Set is just such a powerful legend with his ability of being able to spend a buff and recycle a rune to be able to bring that buffed unit back to base. Now, of course, yeah, you do have to have that unit buffed. And if you do miss out on your buffs, then Set can just kind of fall apart there. And there is this big debate on who is better, Leona or Set. That's a good debate. But I still think that Set is going to be potentially a little bit more powerful because you have the insurance of saving your units, which can be paying you dividends time and time again throughout the match. Whereas Fiora needs to really be holding on tight to this and hoping that they can get over your unit mites and not get the direct spell destruction on what you might see with Victor or Kaisa. Very scary there, but still, I think Set is going to be high A tier on that. Now, Annie. This is tough. This is really tough. Mainly due to the fact that Annie was such a great deck in this first set. One of the biggest surprises, actually. China didn't even play Annie, period. And very well could have shut down the entire meta if so. Sold Out had been playing that since even before the game had released here in English, entering in multiple online tournaments, and was turning heads with winning tournament after tournament after tournament with Annie. And we were like, there's something here. And while Annie is a very technical deck, not going to lie to you about that, you need to know your matchups incredibly well. You need to know how to best utilize the cards in your hand. Your mulligans, even if you mulligan wrong, you can already start with, a foot out the door on your victory there in that case. And so you got to be so careful with Annie, but man, is she powerful. And not only that, is she such a fun deck. I still feel like, again, we are in a path of discovery with Annie because it feels like Origins is still better constructed than Spiritforged Annie, which is really interesting to say. We need to find that balance. I think that's going to be the biggest thing with how do you utilize the best cards of Spiritforge and in Origins to be able to come together and create a mega person of Annie in this case. I still say A tier. I would still say even over Victor as well. So something cool to be able to see there, and we'll see which else is able to go ahead and utilize. Now, we have an interesting deck list here with Master Yi. This is going to be something to be definitely needing to get tested a little bit more. But the biggest thing is that you are going to be playing a turn 1 2-drop. And then turn 2, you're going to go ahead and play your equipment that goes ahead. And when you hold, you are able to score an additional point, and then you move into a battlefield and you hold. If they have the gear destruction, great. You know, you'll have some ways to defy that or to get around that. But still, if you're able to, the only way you're able to really get around this deck is if you really hit your gear destruction, or you are then able to just go ahead and get above those units before they score way too many points. Even just going ahead and giving Master Yi one additional point with the equipment can be something to slow you down so fast that you are not able to really catch back up. One thing that is really interesting, too, that should be noted is that there haven't been any Dead Bloom Predators. And so that's something that I am really keeping an eye on here. And Yi is such a dynamic deck. And it is the Legend ability itself is so powerful to add +2 might when defending alone. And not only that, you got the 6 cost 5 might unit in this deck that just says it cannot be the target of spells and abilities. So you literally have to get over that. And it's like, well, great. How do I do that? How would you recommend doing that when I can't do any removal? I have to literally hope that, you know, my Bloodshot can go off twice, and you are able to, and you don't have the Defies in hand. And even then, it might be something difficult to try to get over with all the cards, the disciplines, the unguards, and things like that. Yi is probably going to be one of the top decks, and I would still even put him potentially in front of Annie in this case. It's going to be really interesting to see. And I'm going to be curious, but I really think that Master Yi, when he finds that sweet spot, will dominate this meta again and even take the world by storm. Draven is going to be the biggest threat, but I really think that Yi might be the one to go ahead and start to counter that. Now, here we go with Lux, one again of the most popular units here. And again, got a lot of really good buffs and things of that nature to be added on. Still, though, the biggest problem is Victor just does it better. You're really relying on playing those big cost spells, and when you are playing those big cost spells, yes, you are drawing a card from the Legend ability. That's about it, though, and there's not a whole lot there. And the hard part is, with Lux, you need to be able to build up your base with units while also playing out the big spells to be able to draw cards. When you do find that balance, it is incredibly powerful, but that's the hard part. And so, unfortunately, I will go ahead and still put Lux in the C tier. There are people who are trying it in China. I've seen some really interesting deck lists. I just don't think, like, if you go against an Ahri, if you go against an MF, if you go against Lee Sin, Leona even, you're still going to be really struggling in said matchups. And so because of that, it's like, well, what are you going to do? What decks above this are really going, is Lux going to be able to defeat consistently? Not much. So that's going to be the big thing. Garen is Garen. Now, here's something really interesting, too. I love the idea of Rumble mechs. I mean, come on, we're men. Who doesn't love mechs? I mean, this is just awesome. Not only that, the mech abilities are actually really powerful, incredibly good, and the fact that it is coming out in a structure deck, and each structure deck comes with one signature spell. Okay, cool. You can just buy three structure decks. You get all the signature spells and pretty much everything that you would need to be able to build Rumble. And you do need to find that balance there. You need to figure out what you need to be able to do with Rumble, but still, Rumble is an incredibly powerful deck. And I was playing against Savage, and he was doing so good. It was iteration after iteration, but after about game 6 or 7, he found something. And he was able to play it incredibly well to be able to go ahead and be a destructive menace and really take it to Ezreal and other decks of that nature as well. So that's one of the biggest things. The hardest part is, though, Draven is just such a powerful deck that I really think that is kind of the kryptonite of Rumble. And even still, though, it's not nearly as much of a kryptonite as what I initially thought. And so I'm still going to be sticking Rumble in the A tier, but with Set and Teemo still a little bit above. Time will tell, but we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see. Now, Lucian is really interesting here because he is just able to go ahead and give Assault to any unit that has gear. Again, though, he can fall prone to gear destruction. That's going to be the hardest part. But even Lucian as the champion to go ahead and just when he goes ahead and conquers successfully, he can then ready himself and you go right back to base. That's a really powerful ability, something that you can utilize as early as turn 3, which can make a big difference. He's had a couple of tops, but the biggest thing is I don't think a lot of people have been necessarily playing him just yet. He is a very complicated deck to try to figure out that balance of units and gear. But once I think that is figured out, Lucian could be something pretty scary. Now, I would still maybe put him in the color combination of high B tier, low A tier in this case, and we'll see how that actually ends up going. Now the big one, Draven. This is the League of Draven. And, I mean, rightfully so. I'm just going to be outright. I do think that Draven is going to be the best deck. We are still finding, of course, that balance there. But I think we have found something pretty special in my playtest group that is really scary. You've seen me play a lot of different deck iterations of my find. And it's had some really good matchups. It's had some really good momentum. It has a lot of removal and movement and power behind it. Not only that, you look at this. Look at the top 8s here in this case, and you're seeing, or maybe, yeah, that is the top 8s. You're seeing Draven represented there. Draven a lot. Draven a little bit. Draven a quarter. Draven a third. And Draven a fourth, essentially, you know? And there's just a lot. Draven a half and a half. Come on. There is a lot to be seen here. And something that can be said that Draven is here to stay. His legend ability is, I would argue, probably the best legend ability because of the color combination that he is in. To create a combat is so incredibly easy. And to win a combat as Draven with purple is even easier. You can use Fighter Flights, you can use Rebukes, you can use Reaver's Row to be able to generate combats to then draw cards until they roll differently. They might not, and if not, well, Draven is still going to be incredibly powerful. And it's really interesting. We've even seen in Runes and Rift on their tournament last Saturday where Draven was the top 3 of 4. And that's something to really keep an eye on too. And so really fun to be able to see, really curious to see what's going to end up happening. Now, Rexai, the queen herself, a very devastating force and a great color combination with a lot of power behind it. Still, though, the biggest thing that I think is a problem is that you need a lot to go right for you with Rexai. When you do get the right cards in the right order, you can just avalanche into a force that is meant to be reckoned with, and that is going to be something really scary to watch out for here. You also could even go the hook option, which is also very viable. Not bad at all. But I still would say that he struggles. You need, especially with removal, with rebukes, with things of that nature, you need to go ahead and really hope that your opponent doesn't have the answers. And if they do, well, then you just start to really fall short. And so because of that, I would put that in the middle, right behind Darius and Lucian there. I'm really hopeful. But I just don't know. I just don't know yet. And I haven't seen anything to necessarily say, this is A tier, this is S tier. And I really do still think that, Darius just does it better, in all honesty. But we'll see. And with that, we got Ornn. This is an interesting thing because Ornn is basically that one-trick pony. We've seen this happen in Riftbound, or not Riftbound, this is Riftbound, hi, in Runeterra as well, where you can go ahead and attach a lot of things and make something really big, and you just are a menace at that point. If you're able to do that, you have a really great job at being able to take down a lot of decks in this case. There is a lot of gear destruction. And everyone is already sighting in for gear destruction. And because of that, Ornn is still going to struggle in this case. It's kind of like Azir in that. If you go ahead and find the removal, Ornn can struggle. He has deflect. You can add deflect to his deflects with the equipment. His equipment does not have deflect. And there's a couple of spells and stuff that you can use and utilize to go ahead and make it a little harder for the gear destruction to be utilized. But again, the gear destruction is so prevalent in this meta that this is going to be something that is so easily taken care of. But still, I would say low A tier. Very low on the back end, though, but still. Jax, gosh, I want Jax to be good. I want him to be able to I love Jax as a legend. I love the color combination. I love that he is able to attach equipment. He's kind of the Teemo of equipment, where you can pay one to attach an equipment instead of recycling one. Really cool idea. Love that idea. But he's just not quite there. And the Jax ability also as a champion to go ahead and be able to then use that when you attach an equipment to him, you can pay one to draw a card. That's also really good. But I feel like he's just not there yet. And I want him to be. I love the artwork. I love the legend himself. And I loved playing him in League of Legends as well. That's the hardest part. And I don't necessarily think that that is going to be something that is going to be making its impact. Now, here we go with Aurelia. How are you doing? This is going to be a really interesting combination here, because Aurelia, all the deck lists that we have been seeing have had very, 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 very minimal units, like literally 8 units or less even. I've seen some that have more, but still, even the ones that have been competing in the cities have been able to go ahead and do pretty solid here. And you're seeing the Aurelias here in the top, nothing in the top. Same here, nothing here, one in the top, and nothing there. And then everything there. And, so you're seeing her kind of populate up and show up every now and again, which is good. I love that we're able to go ahead and see that. But at the same time, if you can go ahead and get around her deflect, or if you just have the removal, the rebukes and things like that, and you're okay paying for that cost, and you're able to make the goal to be able to combat her, she can really struggle. And again, I really do think, kind of like Rumble, her kryptonite is Draven. Because while she has a lot of really good answers on giving you a lot of might, especially with her signature spell, being able to -2 to a unit on the other side and adding 2 to something, and then you can even ready it with the legend, really good. But unfortunately, Draven is able to go really big as well. I mean, even just like the champion to go ahead and recycle a red, to go ahead and add +2, then you go ahead and utilize his signature spell equipment to add +3, boom, immediately you add +5. And so stuff like that, combos like that, is something that Aurelia can go ahead and really struggle with. Still, though, I think she needs to find her balance. If she does, though, this is going to be something that can really devastate the meta, and I would go so far to say that she is going to be in the top of the field, even combating with Annie, because they utilize a lot of the same things. But I really think that, Green, just with that little bit of reinforcements, all those spells, could be the big difference maker to put Aurelia up at the top, even above Annie. Now, Azir. Oh, I want Azir to be good. I do. I've gone against it. I went against Mage Armor. He steamrolled me. Again, though, it is the one-trick pony where you need to play out the gears. You play a gear. You play out a Sand Soldier that's at a 2 might. It has Weapon Master. It immediately attaches that equipment to it. Awesome. That is great. A lot of gear destruction. You destroy that gear, it's over. Now, of course, if you don't, cool. But there's even a lot of decks that are starting to utilize sighting in, or having a lot of gear destruction in the main deck. And so if Azir sees that, well, too bad. Now, of course, with green, you do have a lot of counters. We've already discussed that, but still, you need a lot to be able to go right for you. And if not, you're just going to start to really fall behind, but still has some of the greatest cards. Again, the direct kill spells that yellow is able to utilize, and then all the power that is found here in green as well, with the Disciplines, the Young Guards, the Defies, Not So Fast. All of those cards are just incredibly scary, and I think that we are going to see Azir even probably around here in the A tier, where yes, you need to find that destruction. If you do, great, you're probably going to win, but if not, Azir is going to be scary. So we'll see. Yes, Ezreal. Interesting deck idea in and of itself, and I think, again, we are still in the process of finding the balance here. The hardest part is I went against an Ezreal set or an Ezreal deck. I've played Ezreal by myself, against Savage and other competitors, as well. The hardest part though is when I went against Ezreal and it was on stream. I'll upload that footage because it was so interesting. The guy went through his entire deck. He had 3 cards left in deck, and he still could not win. That is the biggest red flag for me as a legend, as a deck. If you're not able to secure the win with 3 cards left in your deck, what are you doing with that deck? Something needs to change, and that's going to be the biggest thing. Now, I do think we are taking a step in the right direction. I do think that Ezreal needs to utilize singularities. Yes, there are going to be times where there are deflects and things of that nature, but especially when going against things like Draven or something like that, you need to be able to take care of those big units, and if you're not able to, you're just going to lose. And there's ways that they're able to just come back swinging harder at you. And I love Ezreal. I want him to do well, but unfortunately, he's just not finding it. And so I would say probably over here in the B tier, and until we see better deck combinations. It's almost kind of the same with Renata, where she has a really good legend ability. Hook Renata can be awesome as well, but still, you're not necessarily going to be seeing a whole lot of her, I don't think. She has a lot of really good card combinations, but again, I feel like at least in this current meta, she's just a little bit too slow. There needs to be a little bit more gold creation. There needs to be a little bit more utility for her to be able to utilize, and Victor just does it better. Still, though, I would say that probably going to be right here in the middle of B tier, just because she's almost there. Still, if you're able to go ahead and get a Jace and be able to get out the gear that is able to create 3 units every turn, that's a 7 cost, you destroy a gold with Jace's ability, and you immediately put out a 7 cost gear. That's already incredibly powerful. And so something that's really possible there, but still, that might be, again, the one trick thing where if I find this awesome, I'm probably going to win, but if not, then I'm just going to really struggle. I still think we do need to do some more play testing with that, but it's going to be interesting to see. Now, here we go. The aggression, the color combination, blue and orange, really good right here, and something to keep in mind. I think that we are going to be seeing her middle A tier. Has a really good legend ability that is, easy enough to get off, to be able to utilize every single turn, and stuff that you're able to capitalize on. And the color combination is also incredibly good. But again, I don't necessarily see her doing really all that amazing with everything considered. But still, there's a lot to be seen here, and I still feel like we need to find that balance, which is why I'm not going to be moving her into that B tier. I would put her high B tier, potentially, but I feel like she still has great answers into the lower of the deck here, where you could go against Ornn successfully, Rumble successfully, but you would be struggling more into the Aurelias, the Annies, the Kaisas, the Dravens, and even Set very well does a lot of things just better. And so that's going to be the hardest part. But I still think that mid A tier is an accurate assumption here. Now with that, the final one, oh my gosh, the Fiora. I think she has a chance to be really good. The ability to make something mighty is so easy to get with Fiora. And then when you do make something mighty, cool. You just go ahead and you channel a rune. The hard part is, though, I still think that Set is a little bit better in this case, which is why I'm still going to be sticking Fiora here in the middle. She has Punch First, she has a lot, and the nice part about playing something like Punch First is that, yeah, you do have to recycle 2 runes, but you immediately make something mighty so you can channel that rune. Now, of course, yes, you can only do that once a turn. That's where I think that Fiora is going to be falling a little bit short. There's no way to really ready up your legend again to be able to ramp up a lot. And so because of that, you're not ever able to really get super far into this game, and that can be something kind of difficult for you to be able to utilize here. Even still, though, she is powerful. She has the best signature spell in this set, I would argue. The fact that you can go ahead and just counter any spell, for that matter, for 2 and a power, and then be able to add the cost of that spell into the might of another unit is insane, and something that is a big game changer. Still, though, I don't think she has enough utility to be able to properly make that impact. Time will tell. But anyway, guys, this is going to be the tier list. This is where everything is at. So let me know, what do you guys think about my tier list? Where would you move things around? Tell me how I'm wrong. It's an opinion. That's just how it is. So let me know where you would move around things and what you think. But guys, this is an absolute blast to be able to see here. Love doing these tier lists. Again, it's an opinion of a YouTuber. Take it with a grain of salt. But it is something that is just really fun to do. And so anyway, guys, that is going to be it for this video. Again, this is a very exciting meta. Glad that we're able to see all of this. And I really hope that you guys just have an amazing holiday and that you are able to, spend some time with your loved ones and just, really appreciate this hobby and community that we have. Could not do it without you guys. I am super grateful for each and every one of you that do take the time to watch my content, to also like and comment it, to subscribe to me. It means the world. I could do it without you, but it's not nearly as fun. I'm talking to myself so much more, but with having you guys here, it makes me feel a little bit more sane. But anyway, seriously though, guys, I really do appreciate each and every one of you being here to support, to even just drop me a comment. I love reading each and every one of the comments. I feel like we do need to make my catchphrases, my filler words, a drinking game at this point. We're working on that. Not only that, do we need to make it a t-shirt as well? Boom, there you go. Take another shot. Anyway, time will tell. But thank you guys so much for being here, and I hope you guys have a good holiday season, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of 2025. 2026 is coming your way. Riftbound is here to stay, and it is ever going to grow, and I can't wait to be there with you guys every step of the way. We are going to Vegas, and that is going to be so exciting. And I am preparing, I am grinding, and I am sick of this game in the sense of how much I am playing, but it's because I want to do so well, and we will see. We're going to document it, and I love talking to each and every one of you in person or over comments. But anyway, with that being said, guys, thank you so much. Have a safe holiday season. Enjoy the rest of 2025, and 2026 is going to be big. Can't wait to see what ends up happening. But with that being said, guys, have a good one.